Online. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of April 28th, 2026. Present here today, we have Ms. Bardenwerper, Ms. Jacobson, Mrs. Flynn, myself, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, Mr. Asa, Mr. Krasnov, Ms. O'Neill, and Ms. Rinaldi is here online. Our superintendent is at the moment introducing Max Stossel at the event across town and will be joining us later. At this time, if everybody can join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and if you could please remain standing for a moment of silence.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if everyone could please remain standing as a moment of silence for the mother of board member Jason Lee, Ms. Savannah Lee, who passed away a few weeks ago. Thank you. Okay, so we will begin our meeting with student reports. Some old faces, some new faces. So actually, let me start over here with Ward. And if you could, let me introduce Faizan Sayal, who is stepping in for today, but also will be joining us, well, he says permanently, but of course, that permanent to a high schooler, for the subsequent 2 years after that. And if you could start by explaining where our missing members are, and then if you could give us your update.
Good evening, members of the Board of Education. So the missing members are currently at a DECA competition called ICDC. And so they're competing there with their events. And so they're not available to come to the meeting today. But I'll be filling in today. My name is Faizan Sayal, and I'm going to fill in this evening. I'm honored to be representing Ward next year. I would like to take a moment to share a few highlights of what is happening at Fairfield Ward from a student perspective. This Wednesday, we will have a special schedule as we welcome Mr. Max Stossel to speak with students about digital wellness. Students in grades 9 and grades 10 will attend the assembly in person, while students in grade 11 and 12 will participate through a live stream. This is an important opportunity for us to reflect on how technology impacts our daily lives, and we are very grateful to our PTA for making this experience possible. Also on Wednesday, our seniors will take part in a special lunch event during their scheduled lunch waves. This is something students really look forward to, and we appreciate the senior parent group for organizing and supporting this event. Looking ahead, students involved in independent study projects will be presenting their work on May 7th. These presentations are a great opportunity for students to showcase their learning and interests beyond the traditional classroom. Next week, we will also be celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week. On behalf of the students, we would like to thank our PTA for organizing such a thoughtful and meaningful week to recognize our teachers and staff and all that they do for us each day. In addition, AP testing begins next week. We would like to wish all students taking AP exams the best of luck as they prepare and demonstrate their hard work. Finally, our spring musical, Mamma Mia, will take place on Friday and Saturday at 7 p.m. and on Sunday at 2 p.m. in the Ward Auditorium. We encourage everyone to come out and support our talented supporters. Thank you for your continued support of our school community.
Thank you so much. And our seniors from Ludlow, please.
Good evening, everyone. The FLHS orchestras are preparing for their final concerts of the year. Chamber Orchestra will be performing today at the Penfield Pavilion. The Philharmonic Orchestra will perform on April 30th at 7 p.m. at FLHS, and Triam musicians will be performing at the Keys Concert Fundraiser on Tuesday, May 19th.
This is also true for awards, so we already heard this, but EP tests are beginning for our Ludlow students next week, and then they run through next week and the following week. And we also wanted to shout out a speaker that came to our school to commemorate the Holocaust. And so our sophomores and some of our EP European history students were able to attend that assembly and learn about the speaker's family's experiences surviving the Holocaust.
FLHS students celebrated Culture Day this past Thursday. Students set up various stands in the lunchroom featuring food, games, and other activities which celebrated various cultures. There was also a variety of dance performances for students to enjoy.
Throughout the entire month of April, the National English Honor Society has been running events to celebrate National Poetry Month. This year's theme, and the theme, we don't choose it, it's like the national theme for National Poetry Month, is inspired by lines from our current U.S. Poet Laureate, Arthur Z., and his poem is called The Chance. And the lines from the poem that have inspired this year's theme are, "Even if the darkness precedes and follows us, we have a chance briefly to shine." And so NEHS is running multiple competitions, one that's poetry and students can compose poems inspired by the theme, and then a visual arts competition where students can choose their favorite lines of poetry and then create visual art based on that poem.
The annual mock crash at Ludlow took place today, which emphasized the consequences of drunk driving to juniors during prom season, and their prom is this Friday at the FTC.
I believe Max Stossel is currently speaking at Ludlow, or the event is happening right now at Ludlow, but he's also coming to speak to our students tomorrow morning at Ludlow. We kind of already heard what that's about, but about social media presence and how to be human in the digital age. And we're also looking forward to our spring pep rally this Friday. We're excited to celebrate our student athletes this year for our spring season.
Lastly, FLHS seniors will be heading to Quasi for their senior trip on Wednesday, May 20th, before they leave for their senior experiences, and the whole park will be reserved for Ludlow students. We also just wanted to take a moment to thank all the members of the board who have welcomed us and made this a valuable experience for us over the past year or so. We also wanted to thank Dr. Hatzis and Ms. Matteo for their guidance and assistance in compiling updates and events from the Ludlow community. And through this experience, we've strengthened our communication skills, improved our ability to plan and present, and gain a deeper understanding of local government, which will definitely carry us with us through college and beyond. Thank you all.
And I want to reiterate that and continue to extend my thanks. I plan on studying public policy in college, and so I've really been able to gain a lot from the ability to participate in these meetings and just see the dedication of our community to Fairfield schools. And it's been a pleasure spending my Tuesday nights here. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Before I open it up to the board for any questions, I was hoping you could tell us for the other board members, this will be their last meeting here. Starting at our next meeting, those who are inheriting the positions will be stepping in. So thank you so much for your service and coming here every night for each of our meetings. And I was wondering if you had settled on your plans for next year yet.
Yeah, I will be attending Carnegie Mellon next year.
And I'm undecided and need to work on that.
But nice to have options, I'm sure.
Time is running out.
Okay. I wasn't going to say that part, but
Yeah.
all right, thank you. Any board members with any questions for our representatives? Okay. All right, so again, thank you so much. Obviously, as always, you're welcome to stick around, but if you have, I don't know, APs to study for or any other work, we certainly understand. So
I
thank
think
you.
just really quick, in tradition, on your last night, usually they stay the whole meeting. So.
Forgot that. All right. Okay, before we move on with the agenda, I just wanted to do a quick check. Are there any members of the public who plan to speak for public comment? If you could raise your hand. Okay, so we will go proceed to public comment. A reminder that this is limited to 3 minutes. If you could please come forward, introduce yourself, give your name and address. And again, it is, as always, it is limited to agenda topics.
Hi, I'm Robin Herta, 1414 Melville Avenue. I have two kids. One is in kindergarten and the other is in first grade at Stratfield. I wanted to speak in light to all of the kids that are behind us today. I'd love to see a packed house. It's exciting to recognize their achievements. I also wanted to talk a little bit about communication with the public. As a quote, this is a gap year and timing isn't perfect. I've spent hours listening to meetings, reading transcripts, talking with parents, trying to figure out any kind of form of communication that would work best. I have couple questions that I really was seeking answers to. The first one is kind of who's in charge of our programs. As you can see, we've got some really,
I'm so sorry to interrupt. You
Yep.
do need to be, there's no back and
Yep.
forth for
Yep.
public comment, but also you
Yes.
do need to be speaking to an agenda item.
yes, I am.
Okay.
It's our, what's behind us, I
Okay.
think, yes. I listened to a few of the committee meetings, and I really wanted to shout out the importance of all of the kids that are behind us. They put forth so much effort, and they've put together such incredible hard work in their STEAM Invention Convention projects, and I think that's very evident with everybody who's in this room right now. I really wanted to make sure that going forward, that this program continues. I think it's so incredibly important to keep STEAM alive. I'm sure many of the parents behind me also agree that we need to make sure that these kids' passions continue to move forward. And so I would like you to take a look at all of the faces that are here on a weekday at 7 p.m., or they could be at home doing so many other things, and they're here because of their achievements, and that is because of STEAM. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Again, there is an opportunity again at the end of the meeting. Okay, with that, we moving forward with some recognitions. We're going to begin with the recognition of excellence awarded by CABE. This is the I don't know, I'm doing this without glasses. The Bonnie B. Carney Awards of Excellence in Communication, which our extensive staff was awarded in social media, annual report, course selection guide, and special project. So just a little bit of background. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize and congratulate our Director of Communications, Rachel Chapa, on receiving 4 Bonnie B. Carney Awards of Excellence for Educational Communications. This is a meaningful honor and a reflection of the impact of her work across our district. Rachel has truly strengthened how we connect with our community. In close collaboration with colleagues, she has helped elevate our communications in meaningful and impactful ways. Award recognition includes excellence in educational communication for her work on social media, the annual report, our course selection guide, and the special project, the Bell to Bell Cell Phone Free Initiative. Rachel, we are incredibly grateful for your dedication, creativity, and leadership. Your work makes a difference every day. And so if everyone could please join me in congratulating Rachel on this well-deserved recognition as we attempt to present her simultaneously with 4 plaques.
Transparency, collaboration. And bell to bell cell phone free initiative.
Okay. And this evening, we are very proud to celebrate our talented Fairfield Public Schools inventors. Fairfield's fifth graders recently participated in school-based invention convention programs where they designed original inventions to solve real-world problems of community judges. Their work is an impressive example of creativity, problem solving, and hands-on learning. From the car sickness conqueror to the easy peasy rolling pin, the clueless closet comes to life, and I've got to ask about this one, and the barf buddy. These projects showcase both ingenuity and determination. We also extend our thanks to the educators who supported students throughout this process. Please join us in congratulating our young innovators, I am about to call them by name, on their hard work and well-deserved success. Best of luck at UConn as you move on to the state competition. So I think what I'd like to do at this point is that as I read each individual student and the name of your invention, if you could just please stand. And when I finish the list for our schools, we're going to have you all come forward here in the middle for a group picture, okay? So from Burr, and I will apologize in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name. From Burr Elementary, Aria Decembra, the dry swim cap. Jacob Grossman, the bug catcher. Felix Morton, dual creature carrier. Haley Siegfried, cozy arm. From Dwight Elementary, JJ Ibanez, the cooling cup. Reese Klein, drop ease. From Holland Hill, Alex Privilege, the hair cutter. Callie Green, the squeeze case. Nina Valley, the stinger saver. Jana Elsaway, smart fire. From Jennings Elementary, Vara Kapoor, alert aid. Colton Johnston, the better bracelet. From North Stratfield, Clara Brill with Bridge Buddy. Connor Miguel, Nukes, Miguel Nukes. Nicholas Palladino, line learner. Owen Steves, beach mat. Abigail McCullough, scratch stopper. From McKinley Elementary, Sean Beasley, Shubles. Shakti Ravakumar, dog go detector. Jude Mancuso, speak your feelings watch. Sophia Casarella McDonald, always calm interchangeable covers. Dimitri Kalamanidis, easy moving. From Mill Hill, Piper Wood, always here. Layla Fratty, sniff swiper. Dhruv Iyer, Accutong. From Osborne Hill, Sam Sobo, safe for life. Nicholas Miller, ticket. Beatrice Greiner, the easy peasy rolling pin. Carter Marcinek, the puckback. From Riverfield Elementary, Tatum Sparks, heat grip. Viviana Serlin, tutti frutti. Zara Saunders, car sickness conqueror. From Sherman Elementary, Waverly Gorman, sip safe mic. Maddie Kozik, the barf buddy. Is that person here? Oh, I want to hear about that one. Charlie Reardon, scan to save. Lachlan Youngs, the clueless closet comes to life. And finally, from Stratfield Elementary, William Hollis, glow helmet. Alex Stahl, the gadget grip. And Evan Marco, bye-bye lanternfly. And if all the students could please come up in the middle, please. We'd like to take your picture. You don't have to. All right, tall people in the back.
My baseball friends. Evan, guys, come in the back, make a second line. You're short. Here, go in the front. Yeah, you're shorter than them. Guys, get in the front.
We need a line right here.
Oh, I know.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
I'm just gonna wait a minute. Okay. All right, ready to continue? All right, so at this point, we'll move on to the consent calendar. So I'm asking for unanimous approval to support the Board of Ed minutes from March 10th, March 24th, and April 7th. Motion to approve, Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mr. Asa. All those in favor? Okay, and Ms. Rinaldi?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so the vote is unanimous 8-0. Now moving on to old business, approval of education specifications at Early Childhood Center at Fairfield Ward High School. Recommended motion that the Board of Education approve the educational specifications at Early Childhood Center at Fairfield Ward High School. Moved by Mrs. Jacobson, seconded by Mrs. Bardenwerper. So if you'll note in enclosure 4, and Mr. Angelos, if you just want to speak to the need for the motion. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. Mr. Papa George.
No worries. So you have the ed specifications for the ECC at Ward in front of you. When they went to the building committee, it was identified that there was a couple of copy and paste errors in them. So they've been asked to come back before you guys for approval with the ECC lined out as an ECC and not as an elementary school.
Mrs. Jacobson.
The Special Projects Standing Building Committee did meet last night. I did distribute a copy of these last night, let them know that the request had been made and that they were on for approval this evening, so they did receive a copy in advance, and were appreciative of us making the adjustments to the previous ed spec. So I did let them know if it passed tonight, that the final version would be passed on to them.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Mr. Asa?
Being that we delayed this and we're reapproving it now, or not delayed it, we approved it and we're reapproving it now. Is there any anticipation that this delay, compared to the other ones, will cause any issues with the
No.
purpose of this? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Rinaldi, any questions?
None for me.
Okay. All right, then out to the public. Is there any comment on this voting item? Seeing none, coming back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're moving more quickly than I expected. New business, approval of the healthy food certification for the 2026-27 school year. So with recommended motion, I ask for unanimous consent to waive the reading of the motion. Thank you. Mr. Magneri, if you could please speak to the first motion. And again,
So-
keeping in mind that two members are new, so they haven't done this before.
Yeah, no problem. So I did try to include the memo. I think it's in the backup, just going over what these are. The first one is, I believe, sorry, let me just get this out. Okay, so, the first one is to, participate in the National School Lunch Program. And that's really it. I mean, this is language that we get. It has to be this language. And it's really just for us to participate in the National School Lunch Program.
Are there any board questions? I was hoping you could make clear why this is something that the district is interested in.
Oh, well, I mean, it's part of the National School Lunch Program where we get reimbursement for
Thank
free and reduced meals. It's, you know.
That's the part I was waiting for.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. No questions. Okay, so we are looking for this as a voting item. So going out to the public, are there any comments on the recommended motion for the healthy food option? Seeing none, back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously. Likewise, asking for unanimous consent from the board to waive the reading of the second motion. Thank you. So the recommended motion for the combined food and beverage exemptions, Mr. Magnier, if you could please speak to that.
Yeah, this is just to approve the sale of snacks or food that doesn't meet the Connecticut nutrition standards at after-school events.
And what generally is the impact of this on on what clubs or anything else?
I don't know, impact as to what? Could you clarify that?
For in terms of other groups selling?
Yeah, I think it's really just for any after-school, if there's a game or something like that, then they can sell, things that just aren't approved in the nutrition standards.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, again, this is a voting item out to the public. Any questions or, excuse me, public comment? Yes, Mrs. Flynn. I did not. You are correct. I don't think we did for the first one either. No, so we're going to back up a little bit. Sorry, I'm out of practice here. No, it's kind of an important move. So we're going to go back to A1. My apologies, board. So we're going to have to redo the vote. So moved by Mrs. Flynn, seconded by Mrs. O'Neill. I'm not going to repeat everything else. All those in favor? Motion passes.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Rinaldi. Motion passes unanimously. And then for A2, the recommended motion for combined food and beverage, moved by Mrs. Jacobson, seconded by Mr. Krasnoff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And again, my apologies. Moving on to new business, item B, the approval of the McKinley Elementary School partial roof replacement project, number 051016ORR. The recommended motion that the Board of Education accept the McKinley Elementary School partial roof replacement project, number 051-0160RR as complete. Moved by Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mrs. Bardenwerper. Mr. Papa George.
Thank you. As you all know, the McKinley roof project was completed over the summer. We did a punch list items and it is now 100%. We're looking for your approval to accept it as completed so that we can finish out the state filing for reimbursement.
And if you could explain what is the time issue of that, because obviously this wasn't on our last meeting. So what's the timing?
The timing was that there wasn't a quick rush for this, but we had asked that it be a one and done because of to get it done prior to the break for the summer.
Okay. Any board questions? All right, seeing none, out to the public. Any question, any comment? Back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on to the first reading of our policies. So, new business item C, first reading of policy 3310, purchasing, which you have here as enclosure number 6. This is one that we in policy committee going back 2 years, actually probably more than 2 years, 3 or 4 years had wrestled with, but then we weren't comfortable moving forward because we were waiting on the town, and finally it brought us to where we are now, where we're comfortable with this. But Mr. Magneri, if you could please speak to the changes in red.
Sure. So the first part of the purchasing policy, 3310A, that's really just an adjustment that is really just reflecting the language that's in the charter. And so I just felt that it's language from the charter, so I just wanted to match and be accurate. The substance of the additions here are compliance with the grants and procurement of property or services under a federal award. Those are really related to the school nutrition program and some more stringent guidelines for school nutrition program, because a lot of those are federal dollars. But I would say overall, I have the purchasing policy right here. I always keep it on my desk. And I felt it would be best to reference this policy because this document did go through a long review and was approved by the Board of Finance, and I know had a lot of eyes on it. So this is what we use, and the town is our purchasing department. Adam approves our purchase order. So that's my summary for you all.
Okay, questions from the board? Mr. Asa.
Yes, just a question regarding federal and state funding. I know we do our own internal auditing, I'm assuming, and can you just explain what that process is, and if we do use outside auditors to check some of this for compliance? Because I know I work in this world of state and federal funding, and I know how stringent we audit, both internally and externally.
Sure. So I would imagine, just because the school nutrition is accounted for in a separate fund, that undergoes an annual review. I know for a fact, actually, that undergoes our annual audit, which that audit is really checking to make sure that the financial statements are presented fairly and accurately. So the finances for school nutrition are audited in that respect. As far as an audit by, like a federal agency or anything else that they look for, I know we do income verification for some of the programs where people may qualify. For procurement, there are certain trainings that have to be done. I haven't really went through anything just yet where there has been an audit by a federal or state agency, so I'd have to check with the food service staff.
Yeah, I was just more referencing any other programs or any other money that we get outside of the food and nutrition, which I'm assuming is covered by the first part of this portion here. And as far as reporting requirements, just to be sure that someone's monitoring that we are properly and regularly completing our reporting requirements for state and federal funding.
Yeah, so we have 2 staff, 2 women that look at EGMS and look at a lot of the reports and things that are approved, and any messages that we get for grant programs. And I will say that they are very much on top of it. We just went through an exercise with one grant where we met with the coalition, and we were able to come to resolutions for reporting. So we do have 2 eyes on that are really looking at that and are very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a couple quick questions. In the second paragraph where the insertions provided that the procedure manual does not conflict with state or federal law, that's new language proposed. And I was just wondering if you've in your time experienced anything in the purchasing policy that you found to be conflictual?
I have not. That isn't to say that there isn't something out there. There's a lot of laws, both state and federal. So this was just, this was kind of to make it flexible. If there was a more stringent, if there's something more stringent, this is essentially to say that we would follow the more stringent policy.
Okay, go ahead.
Mrs. Flynn?
Can I ask the same for the charter as well? Was there any instances, because that's referenced several times, where maybe perhaps, I know that purchasing is different throughout the state, that our charter comes in line with state law? I'm not saying it conflicts, but obviously these things change at different paces. Have you come across that at all?
Or something where
Where the charter comes in conflict with state law?
No, I think you'd have
Public
to
might.
be pretty, I feel like because the town has had two relatively recent experiences with charter revision, that I feel like as far as a risk of the charter conflicting with any state law, that you would be pretty covered because it's been looked at so recently.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And then just the striking out, and I'll put this to you, Mrs. Maxicanelli, of the policy regarding the grants policy, the 3324, which have to do with approved budgets and price quotes and whatnot. I know that we've been taking some of these things out of the policy, but then including them as a cross-referenced policy. Was there any discussion about, I understand striking it out of this as part of the body, but then cross-referencing it? Or was there an intent that you didn't want to have that be associated with this?
I don't recall our having a conversation about that in policy. And I don't have notes on that.
Okay, just
So
a
we don't-
follow up for next time. It was just
Okay.
my thought, understand taking it out. Would we want to list it as a cross-reference, or was the intent of the committee that you didn't want it associated, which then I might have a question on that. Just for reference for the public, 3324 has to do with things that are authorized within the approved budget. And then the AR has to do with a certain number of price quotes and bidding and that kind of a thing. So I would think that would be important to at least have a cross-reference, but I'd leave it to you guys if you have a meeting in between. Just a question that I had. And that was my only questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else purchasing? Okay, so this will be a voting item at our next board meeting, the first board meeting in May. So if you do have, thank you, Mrs. Jacobson, for that question. But if anyone does have any others in the interim, great if we could have it by our May 4th policy meeting. If I need to put it back on the agenda, I will. Otherwise, we'll certainly get those answers. Nothing else. Okay. Moving on to item D, first reading of policy 3323, bids and quotations. Any questions from the board? Pretty straightforward. No questions. Okay. Moving on to item E, first reading of policy 6141.3273, use of artificial intelligence. I'm going to ask Dr. Parrish if you can come up, and I will also say to any members of the public who are watching this on tape or who had hoped to come tonight, I did sincerely think it was going to take us longer to get to this on the agenda. I had emailed a few people saying they would have time to go to Max Stossel, and if they wanted to come back in time for this, that they would have time. I did misjudge the time. However, again, this is a first read only, and there is plenty of time still for emailed comment as well as public comment at the next meeting should we move ahead with a vote. So with that, Dr. Parrish, I was hoping you could speak to the committee process. Just as a reminder for the board, we had grappled with this policy multiple times in the policy committee. We thought we had a decent draft to bring forward to the board for conversation. That promoted or provoked a great deal of conversation and a lot of hesitation on the part of the public, so much so that Superintendent Tastani authorized, recommended that we do a pause, and let's follow through actually on one of the public recommendations, which was to form a committee to take a look at this and do that work. He charged Dr. Parrish with leading that committee. And so with that, I'd like to turn it over to you to describe more the process.
Thank you. Zakia Parrish, Deputy Superintendent. So the District AI Steering Committee was comprised of 15 members of the community, including teachers, administrators, parents, our IT director, and many of those members were on the original internal committee. It also included, how could I forget? Two of our board members, excuse me, who are also parents. It also, like I mentioned, included some members of the original committee who put together the first draft that came before you, that originally went to the policy committee, then came before this board, that was then taken back by this steering committee, and we took several weeks of going through many recommendations from various, hearing all the voices around the room in terms of things we wanted to change, language we wanted to modify, looking at samples from other districts. I actually pulled a couple of chapters from technology and education text that we referenced, as well as some of the state documents regarding artificial intelligence policies. And so based on that, our work started in January of this year, and we were able to make a recommendation to the policy committee in April, well ahead of our targeted deadline. But I think that we had a pretty robust conversation and made sure that regardless of if people were in person or if they chimed in virtually, there were some people that weren't able to make the meeting, but they sent their, and I shouldn't say virtual, they sent their comments via email. And so we actually posted those on the screen and went through line by line, both the policy itself, followed by the administrative regs. And so with that, we then put together a draft that we presented to the committee. There were some minor changes that the committee recommended to both the policy as well as a suggestion, I should say, for the administrative regulations. And those things were incorporated into both, shared back with the committee so that they were aware of what the changes were. And now we're here before you.
Okay, so with that, I open it up to the board or our local rep. I'm just curious, is this the item that you were curious for? Okay, so obviously, please, by all means, raise your hand if you have a question. But all right, parents, Mr. Krasnov.
I first off want to thank the committee for all the work you guys did. I do love seeing a little bit better of a definition here of the difference between traditional AI and generative AI. I felt the original policy kind of lacked in that area. And I am glad to see it's a little bit more broad, because AI is here, is definitely staying. And unfortunately, AI might be replacing some jobs that some of our students are currently preparing for. So I'm glad to see this. I'm glad to see the form of this. I know some people wanted it stricter and more descriptive, but I actually like the direction you guys took. So thank you.
And one thing I should jump in and explain the colors. Again, I've been working with this for a while, so I forgot to do that. So the red language was what had come. Remember that this entire policy does not exist. So that's why none of the language is in black. What is in red was what came from the initial iteration of the policy that came before the board. What is that, lavender, the blue, the purple? The bluish purple, there we go. Language is what came out of the committee. And then that little bit in green at the bottom, that was one of the things that that was the thing that the policy committee did as an amendment. So I apologize, I should have started by explaining those colors. Other board questions, comments? Mrs. Jacobson.
Yes, thank you so much for all the work that everyone put into this. I do feel that it's a lot more substantive, and I appreciate very much so putting some of the other regulations and statutes in here. I just have a few for right now. Definitions, and you guys can just, whoever wants to answer this, I don't know who to send them through, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, but the lack of a definition just for artificial intelligence in general, was that intentional or, because we've got the non-generative and the generative, but there's also in state statute anyway, an artificial intelligence one. Was that meaningful to not include that, or you didn't think it was purposeful?
Well, actually, the purpose was to ensure we're splitting the two in the definition to ensure what we're talking about is generative AI.
Okay, so that's what you're talking
Um,
about. All right. And also in definitions, and this might be a broader question, I don't know if the policy got into AI companions at all or that topic, because there isn't anything in this policy, either a definition or anything that addresses that explicitly. So I guess I'll just ask a broad question around, do any of the tools that our students have access to at any grade level have the ability to have an AI companion?
No, they do not.
They don't. Okay. All right. That's good. So that's why I wouldn't be there. That was hoping. That's what I was hoping you were going to say.
And Mrs. Jacobson, just to jump in, because one thing, all board members, you did receive a copy of the regs as part of the Friday packet. And so a reminder that that was one thing that the policy committee was keenly interested in being explicit for our parents. The opening line indicates that there is no use of generative AI, no use of generative AI with creativity, problem solving, and there was a third for pre-K through grade 8. We couldn't abolish it completely because it is involved in some of the testing where we don't have any purview over that, but in terms of instruction, this really is geared towards high school. So just only because Mrs. Jacobson, you had referenced students, so I just wanted to make sure that in the case the board had not noticed that in the regs and also for the public.
I didn't see the regs. I'm so sorry. What did you mean that this is in reference to high school? I'm so sorry, Jen.
So in the regs, the opening line, which had not been in the previous iteration of the administrative regs, there is an explicit statement which, assuming the policy is voted on, and therefore we post the regs as well, that there will be no use of generative AI in kindergarten through 8th grade with certain stipulations.
Okay.
In other words, for the broad, Ms. Bardenwerper, if you have the sentence, you want to read it?
Sorry. Thank you for the explanation.
Mrs. Bardenwerper.
Just to jump into,
Well, Mrs. Jacobson still has the
No.
floor, but
Okay,
I was just hoping if you had the sentence.
I will look for it. I
Okay, thank you.
definitely-
Mrs. Jacobson, back to you.
Sure. Thank you. I'm going to connect page C to page D really quickly. Love these additions. Thank you so much. So the access to student or staff data shall be deployed. Appreciate this vendor evaluation and approval process. I'm going to kick it over, Mrs. Maxon Kennelly, and you'll probably be able to follow me here to D. So when we get to the approved AI vendors shall be subject to the periodic reviews to ensure continued compliance with district policies and applicable laws. They have to notify the district of any material changes to their product, terms of service, or data handling. I might make an amendment to include policies there because there are usually certain policies that get updated, and sometimes we don't get notified about those, generally speaking, on software issues. But in this section on the ongoing monitoring, going back to the previous section, I was wondering if they do change such products, terms of service, insert policies possibly, or data handling process, would that then trigger a reevaluation under section B? Because that's not especially in here. So do you follow what I'm trying to say? Let's say you get notified that they've changed terms of service, policies, et cetera. They've already gone through this one-time deployment review, but now they're changing something. Would that trigger a new evaluation to ensure continued compliance? Did you follow what I'm saying?
Yes, it would. It would trigger that.
It will trigger?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just shall be deployed, or it's also upon any change to any of the conditions or terms and conditions,
Right.
right? Okay,
Yes.
okay, awesome. I figured it's hard to connect the two, but I just wanted to make sure that that was in your thinking on that. Because they could change it and no longer be in compliance, so.
I can add a comment to that as well.
Sure.
So part of the process about getting those changes to the regulations, to the terms, to their service agreements is a tough thing because obviously they're changing privacy policies frequently. So part of this process is that they are in fact posting it publicly. So it's not necessarily that they're emailing or sending me a letter with their policy update, but they are in fact for sure updating it on their public policy stating that they've changed their policies. We now have a system to constantly watch all of our vendors' policies for changes. And when they change, we get notified, we review them, and then we decide to keep the particular application compliant or not. So this is an ongoing basis for every vendor in the list.
The last thing I wanted to, when you say that it's not allowed in grade K through 8, and I don't know if that's the sentence that you're looking for, there's no AI in K through 8?
No, that's not what we said.
Okay.
So, for example, there are certain assessments that have generative AI built into them. So what we were talking about are the tools that, we specifically purchased through the district for not only staff to use, but also our high school students. So Magic School being one of them, and Google Gemini being the other one. But there are certain tools that do have generative AI that are built into them, such as, for example, our SBAC assessments.
Are the assessments that have AI in them state, or are they state and or local?
I believe there are some local as well that basically adapt based on the students' responses. I'm pretty certain of that.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
I do have the full language if you want to. The Fair Public Schools staff will not permit students in kindergarten through grades 8 through to use generative AI as a substitute for the creative, critical thinking, and problem-solving work of the classroom, including the potential uses of AI listed below. And that's when the entire regulations is listed.
So, so for 9 through 12, I don't have the language in front of me, we would be allowing for the did you say the word replace?
We wouldn't be allowing it to replace critical thinking, but we're not allowing our K through 8 students to use so on that regulation sheet, I don't know if you remember, there were the
2 columns.
two columns. One
Yeah.
was prohibited and one was
Potential uses of.
potential uses and non-uses. So those potential uses are the ones that we're referencing that our K-8 students would not be engaging in.
Got it. Follow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay. Mrs. Flynn?
Thank you. I'll talk about the work of the committee at the end after everyone's got their questions, but we didn't get to discuss this in the committee. I would assume that any state testing applications would be compliant with any state laws that are coming that haven't fully been passed yet, but we would be in the clear. One would assume that, right?
I would hope that they wouldn't be in violation of their
Yeah,
own laws.
we had these kind of conversations in the AI steering committee, and I might come back to it at a later time, but thank you.
Mrs. Bardenwerper?
I just wanted to jump into, because I know something we did discuss in policy committee was that some of the other, like there are some programs we do use that have the AI that we can't get rid of, like the Encyclopedia Britannica, I believe, and Pebble Go have like a search function where it'll be like search, like, did you mean, or search also. And that's actually run by AI. So that was kind of one of the trip ups of why we had to say that it's not completely gone. Thank you.
Mr. Krasnoff?
Maybe I don't understand, but wouldn't that fall kind of under the traditional, like a Google search? No, that kind of, it's not changing the information, right? It's just trying to help you search for the information, so it's.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Other questions? Mrs. Flynn?
Are there, before I start talking about the committee, is that, okay? Okay. I just want to thank the committee. I was very, very apprehensive about this policy. It was part of why I joined the AI steering committee, and I found the work to be very comprehensive and collaborative. It also involved a lot of stakeholders who I feel like have been antsy to be a part of this process. I think it brought together a lot of the voices that we've been hearing consistently for a long period of time. And I'll just kind of make this recommendation to the ether. I just think as we continue these conversations about tech, this is kind of a good process to follow. It wasn't arduous. It didn't take years, or even we came in underneath the timeline. I thought it was very structured. I just think if we are talking about tech moving forward, I would heavily encourage leadership through the chair to the superintendent to look at these types. I think we have tech conversations coming our way for quite a bit of time. And I would just applaud Dr. Parrish and the staff members that were a part of it. I thought it brought a really vitally needed voice to the conversation that we would not have been able to replicate, not only as board members, but as parents. So I just want to thank the staff that was members of the committee, I thought, and the parents as well. I just thought that the input was vital, and it made this policy one that I know that I can support with some heavy hesitation. And and fear, but I think that this really puts our students and our staff in a good position to have some guidance, and that's what they were asking for. So I want to applaud the work of our administration and our staff for this.
Okay, Ms. O'Neill.
Thank you. I wanted to make a similar comment as someone who was also on the steering committee, and I made this comment at our last policy meeting. I know this structure and this type of committee isn't something we can do for every single decision or even every decision with technology, but for a newer member of the board and honestly someone who is not super familiar with the ins and outs of AI, I found the experience very valuable to hear from parents, administration, teachers of all different levels, elementary, secondary, media specialists, science teachers, English teachers, and to have all of those people's input was invaluable and also a really good learning experience for myself. So thank you to everyone who's worked on this.
Okay. Other board questions? Obviously, this is not your only chance at these questions. Just want to cover what we can here. Mrs. Rinaldi, anything at this time?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, Mrs. Flynn?
I will throw this out to the board because it's the one word in this policy that I'm still grappling with, and it's in the last section, board commitment, and that engaging learn environment that leverages. I still kind of grapple with that word leverage. I don't know if it's perfect. I don't know. I'm just basically saying I don't like that word. So if anyone has alternatives, that's the one word in the policy that keeps sticking for me. So I'll throw it out there as a question.
And
no, I saying I'm kind of stuck because I was on the steering committee. We talked about it at pretty much at I think that I expunged the administration, but I'll just throw it to the board that I did have hesitations with how we, even encouraging, I had issues with. So like that word leveraging, like how we are, the how of it, it got stuck with me a few times. So I would just throw it out to you guys that was something that I was thinking about. And if you would like to think with me, feel free.
yeah, I will say as a brief comment to that, I actually think leverages is, I understand because it is all about the how. It is about the how it's being used. I actually think leverage here might be a really good choice. Because again, we're not talking about replacing. I'm not even the biggest fan of supporting. This is a very, concrete technical aspect of this can be leveraged for a use. I kind of like that as a term there. So that's my reaction to it.
A replacement might not be the outcome. It might be reassurance that I'm looking for.
Support was one of the words that was support and enhance and augment. There were certain words that were almost like trigger words for certain members of the committee. So we did go through and do a lot of wordsmithing.
No, and I
remove
actually
that.
appreciate exactly where you landed because to me, leverage is what's the word I'm looking for? It's a bit mechanical in terms of it's going to serve a purpose, and if it's not for that purpose, it shouldn't be used. So I like where you landed. I only had two, and obviously I'm on the policy committee, but I didn't ask you this at the time. But I've gotten just a couple of emails asking me this, so I thought I'd throw it out to you. I don't need an answer right now, but maybe you can get back to me later. Is the idea of one, because we aren't sure about exactly, as we get new PD, our teachers are learning more about where they can meaningfully use it or not. We don't have any notion or any current usage where it's prescribed, do we? So that there would never, at this point, there's no project where they have to be. It can be leveraged for its use. But do our staff, are they at a level yet where they are actually, the project is AI embedded? If you understand my point?
I do understand your point. I can't say for certain that is the case. That is not or is the case. I would assume that it would have to be something very
It's gonna have to be a teacher who's fairly advanced with their use.
correct.
And at this point, no teacher is having to use it. So
No,
that
we're
if
not
someone
requiring anyone we're not requiring teachers to use it.
But that's, obviously trying to, because there's a lot of PD that has to happen before anybody's comfortable with it. Because I think a lot of us are very, very concerned about the integrity of the whole process. So in terms of opting out, then, but if it's never a mandated part of a project, then the whole notion of what if parents want to opt their child out of using it? If they're not being required to do so, is that correct?
Correct.
And then in the committee, was there much of, and I don't know, Dr. Parrish or Ms. O'Neill or Ms. Flynn, was there ever much of a voice or a conversation around, we just want the district to not use it at all? Like, did that get voiced, and how did you work your
Yes.
way through it?
Yes, it was more than just you. We had another, remember our tech parent who has decades of experience working in the technology industry, had a very strong voice. I think that through the discussion, and the conversation that we engaged in, we got to a place where everyone was at a happy medium, but absolutely that came up. That was, I think, our initial meeting. We discussed that in depth, and then got to a landing place where I hope that those that felt that way felt comfortable. I didn't hear from those voices that felt that way, that they felt shut out in any way or that their voices were silenced. We listened to their concerns and tried to answer questions as necessary, and then tried to move the work forward.
And nobody quit.
No one quit.
Okay, so that's positive. I don't know, Mrs. Flynn, if you want to speak more to that?
I came in immediately asking what would be the process if somebody wanted to opt out, and it was actually pretty helpful to have them walk through how it was. As much as we would like that to be an option, it just isn't really available in the way we would like it to be for our K through 8th, but it is embedded in so many programs. To Ms. Bardenwapper's point, Encyclopedia Britannica, Google application, like it just gets a little bit stickier for our older students. And I think Mr. Taddy did a really good job kind of walking us through how this policy, my first instinct was to get super specific. And I think in lieu of having the ability to wave a magic wand and just make sure this didn't get into our brick and mortar buildings, which I would do if we could, I think that this really puts us in a position to have our staff feel comfortable. I want to reiterate over and over that the most fervent supporters of this were staff.
This meaning the policy.
The steering committee.
Okay.
The policy, and I would really say that specifically the regs too, they are looking for guidance. And I think for our secondary 9 through 12 staff specifically, they're already kind of in the wild, wild west. And we have a staff member right next to us from another district, but I think it would have been, I would have had a hard time as a board member leaving that room without putting something forward for our staff. That's what I kind of came out of that committee. And I think that I said over and over, if this needs to come back to us, I think these kind of documents are not going to be 10-year documents. So I think we should rely on our staff for that very much. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes. Make sure you're talking into the mic.
Sorry. It's like it's my first day here. So I just have a question. I was wondering, like, is this whole policy just for the 2 programs for the Magic School and the Google Gemini, or does this allow for use of other programs? Because I know that I've been using them in classes, like given assignments to use other programs.
No, and that's one of the reasons why the language of the policy is as vague as it is at the moment we start naming this is what they're allowed to use in school, promptly there's something new that gets the approval of the district that fits our policy and guidelines, and it starts getting used. So in fact, we don't name any specific applications.
Okay. And then another question, is this all like intended to be for like written work and like work that's like words and content, or is this also like addressing images and visuals for projects?
I believe it's meant for absolute any use of generative AI in any capacity. But by all means, if you want to cast your eye over it, and if you notice something that that all of the adults have completely missed, would love that feedback. Even if this is your last meeting, we can still hear from you. So thank you. Any others? So again, at this point, I don't think we would have this coming back up in policy committee. So that means at our next meeting, I will try to get the answer to that question from Mrs. Jacobson. But other than that, we should plan on this as a vote at our next meeting. If anybody should, as this is true of all policy, but if you are interested with this and any policy and making an amendment, as always, as a courtesy to your board members and to our board secretary, if you can have it typed up and in advance to Mrs. Brown for inclusion in our packet, that would be most appreciated. Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry, Mrs. Jacobson.
Is it okay if we have a couple word tweaks that we might propose to the board if we run it through staff to check that they would be okay with it?
I mean,
I
obviously,
mean, I
you're,
raised the two things that I might bring up for the word policies and then triggering the second thing. I assume those would be okay, but I just want to make sure that I would check that too. So just, if I have an amendment, I might run it by you
Yeah,
first.
no,
Okay, all
thanks.
right, thank you.
Definitely.
okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you so much. Moving on to item 8F, first reading of policy 6162.51, survey of students. That's enclosure 9. I'll just explain the genesis of this survey. Hopefully this is something the board will appreciate. I actually don't remember if it started first with Dr. Parrish or with myself, but from my experience on Parks and Rec, and there are very specific guidelines for this, which I cannot quote, but in many instances, if there is a project or an event happening in town which has been recurring for multiple years, each year coming back for approval, and there are no substantial changes to the event, it goes strictly to the approval, in this case of Mr. Calabrese, and it no longer comes before the Parks and Rec Commission because it is in fact getting redundant. And so as we were looking again at when is the Wakeman survey coming back before us, that's where I talked with Dr. Parrish about the possibility of changing this policy to do the same sort of thing. If there are no changes, does the board really need to have a full presentation on it, pulling the people giving the survey here before us? So you can see the wording that Dr. Parrish came up with that came before the policy committee, but that was kind of the genesis of this, is really to make meetings that small degree more efficient. And so with that, I'll take any questions. Mrs. Flynn.
Thank you very much for this amendment. I love the intent of it. Would this allow for the superintendent, that's the decision maker in this, the administration or the superintendent designee, would that allow to discontinue the use of a survey? So like if there was a survey for 5 years, could they on their own decide not to do it as much as they could decide to do it?
Why, what
I have
policy?
no
I guess I'm unclear on what policy would be forcing a survey, or maybe I'm misunderstanding you.
So I'll, whether it be Wakeman or Fairfield Care, like something that's been done for however many years, as much as they could decide to push it forward without anything, could they at the same time decide we're gonna scrap that and not do that anymore? The superintendent. So since it wouldn't be coming before us for a vote and he's the designee, I love the intent that he can push it forward. Can he also stop it?
Well, if he were
Does that make
stopping
sense?
it, there's nothing that forces him to come before us to get permission to stop a survey.
I think does my concern, I think I would be concerned that something that has been reoccurring, would it be able to be stopped without the board being involved? Mr. Ace, I'm wondering if I'm not stating my question correctly.
Mr. Asa?
I think you're misinterpreting the policy. Yes.
Well, okay, Mr. Krasnoff.
I'm wondering if it makes sense to have something in the policy that it's still sent to the board, just so they're aware of it. I think it would be nice to know what the changes are, because it doesn't outline what really a minor change is, and to some people, a minor change may be a minor change, and other people that might actually be a major change that the board as a whole is not okay with. I just think it would be good to get a copy of them. It doesn't mean they have to come back and present or anything. Just a thought.
So you're talking about a notification piece? Sorry, just jotting notes. No, I understand what you're saying. I think we had been satisfied in policy committee with that minor changes include that sentence, but I do hear your point. Mr. Asa?
Yeah, so just if there's a survey like the Wakeman one, which is tied to state and federal funding, if for some reason at a certain point they're doing this every year and that the grantor requires or says that the Board of Education in such a town must approve it, would this allow us to just simply bring it before us without a presentation and everything and the hoopla?
Fair point. And again, so I look at the last sentence, the determination for needing board approval will be made by the superintendent. To me, a conversation between the superintendent and whoever the chair is about, here's the nature of it, we just need the vote.
Perfect, thank you.
To me, I would agree with where you're going with that question. Mrs. Jacobson?
Similar to Mr. Asa, if there's, a federal or state funding grant requirement back to our grant policy, that might necessitate this, but I appreciate this in terms of streamlining it for like a Wakeman per se. The other question that I had to do with following up on Mr. Krasnoff's comment, the notice not a copy, but in case someone like calls us or emails us and be like, hey, we had a survey, and then we don't, at least we will know that it's happening. I, again, don't feel like it needs to come in front of us or a presentation or anything, but just a notice would be nice just because. So I agree with.
Okay. Any other feedback? All right, so to Mrs. O'Neill and Ms. Barnwerper, I think I will put this back up on the policy committee agenda for us to have a quick discussion. We have a lot of other meat on that agenda, but I'll put this up at the top for us to address. So among the three of us, taking away what the board's sentiments were on that. Okay. Any other comments, Mr. Rinaldi? Or did we cover it?
No comments from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. So moving on to item G. So this is approval of the Board of Education Bylaw Advisory Committee. Recommended motion that the Board of Education approve a bylaw advisory committee per enclosure number 10. If I can have a motion, please. Ms. O'Neill, seconded by Mr. Asa. So if you go to enclosure 10, and again, as is the practice with our bylaws, that's why I was comfortable putting this on as a one and done. However, if there's a lot of negative or constructive feedback on the phrasing or any of the wording, we can always postpone this. But as is typically the practice with our bylaws, so long as a bylaw change is in the body of the packet that comes out to us on Thursday in the announced packet, that it can be up for a vote. And so this is, since December 9th, been in the works, and I've just been busy with other things, let it drag, finally came back to this. And so I open this up for any questions. I did try to model this on past commission statements, so not trying to go rogue in any way, and trying to also very deliberately leave it quite open-ended in terms of this does not have one targeted section in that bylaw review. This is meant to be quite far-ranging in terms of making sure that we're up to date, compliant, consistent. So that's the idea, but I welcome any question and feedback. Mr. Asa.
No questions. I just want to say thank you. I know we realized we needed something like this in order to properly move forward. So I would hope that we could efficiently approve this tonight so the work can start. I don't think there's really anything controversial in this. It's the work, nothing was getting done. We're going to bring everything back to the board.
Correct. Mr. Krasnoff.
Just a quick question about this. Is this pertaining to reviewing our current bylaws or any bylaw that's presented moving forward?
So this is reviewing the current
Just the current.
9,000 series, so it's the entire body. There were no restrictions on what it was looking at. So it was there was nothing.
But if like
future-
next week I decide to come up with a bylaw, I don't need to go through this committee to
Oh,
put
no,
the
no,
bylaw
absolutely not.
in.
Bylaw changes can be brought up at any time by a member. But I
That's what I
think
was
just to confirm
clarify.
that this is really stemming from our discussion, starting with the calendar discussion.
It makes total sense. I was just clarifying.
Sure.
For me and the public.
Okay, Mrs. Jacobson.
Yeah, thank you for the draft on this. I agree. I think it's is, not controversial. And just for the public, per our current bylaws, a charge has to be voted on for an ad hoc committee or an advisory committee before that committee can be convened. So why this is before us tonight is because it is actually required, which is nice. So that the board knows and has some idea of what the work will be done. So yeah, I don't have any issues with it, and I'm happy to vote for it tonight. Thanks.
Okay. Any other feedback on the wording? Okay, so just before we take a vote, just as a reminder about a couple of the things, at this point, way back in December, I did solicit for membership. So at this point, the only 3 intrepid people stepping forward. Well, Mrs. Jacobson and myself stepped forward. Mr. Asa was kind of pushed forward. So I did, yes. But I did think it was very important that this be a bipartisan committee. For the reason, as a reminder, bylaw changes, unlike many of the things that we vote on, any bylaw change can only pass with a 6-3 vote. So it is really important that we get different perspectives. And genuinely, I think it's helpful that the 3 most veteran members are on there. But I think we will also be reaching out to our respective caucuses to get feedback. I envision that at our opening meeting, one of the first agenda items will be how do we solicit feedback as we set meeting calendar, et cetera. But just looking forward to getting this work started. So nothing that is urgent. And again, to Mr. Krasnoff's point, although I'm kind of hoping nobody has an immediate change that they're looking to make, that we can work with one body. But as Mr. Asa said, that is the right of any board member to do that at any time. No questions then. Okay, so before we, this is an operational thing, so I don't think we actually go out to the public on this. No. Yeah, so, all right, so I'll come then to the board, please. All those in favor?
Aye.
So the motion passes unanimously 8-0. Thank you so much. And with that, we come to the superintendent's report. So Mr. Testani is not here. He had told me that he might be staying at the Max Stossel for the full event. And again, I wildly misjudged the length of this agenda. So if he makes it back, great. Otherwise, if there's anything important, I'll ask him to include it in the Friday packet for board members. So do you have a question? Okay, so moving on then to committee and liaison reports. Mrs. Jacobson.
Next Wednesday is the close of the legislative session at midnight. So I've been in communication with the superintendent on several things. I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have on where things particular stand that you may have seen in the media. There are quite a number of things moving through. And will need to be called in the next week or so, including the budget in terms of funding for our district in several regards. But there are lots of House and Senate sessions to come in the next few days before things get finalized. Some things have passed one chamber, but not the other one yet. So we're getting down to the time where things start to get really heated up. And I'm, again, happy to answer any questions on anything specific that you might have seen in the news, but otherwise tracking a lot of things for the district. Thank you.
Okay, well, first of all, I just want to know if there are any questions for Mrs. Jacobson. I am just curious if you can speak to, is there anything, and it's maybe not fair for me to put you in the position of making a prediction, but anything that you see having substantial policy or financial impact? And also if you could speak specifically to where the homeschool bill ended up.
Okay.
Or again, still in process, but.
Still in process. Still in process. It had significant changes. The provisions regarding taking classes and participating in sports, which I know that several superintendents had raised concerns about how that would all be operated at the public hearing and in written testimony, was taken out. The provisions regarding the annual intent to notify and the district still being responsible for collecting those forms, and then upon the initial running through the DCF and all of that still remains what would become a local district responsibility. So significantly paired, but still substantive of a change.
I did read that one, and okay, I got halfway, and then I felt like I got the gist suddenly. But am I correct that the onus of that one, as I was reading it, really is on the parent? The district is collecting, but in terms of outreach, keeping track, or anything, I wasn't reading a lot of onus on the district. Am I incorrect about that?
There are some instances where the district would be responsible for making several phone calls.
That's right, the 3 phone calls,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. And then following up with when the report comes back from DCF, et cetera, et cetera. So in a case of a withdrawal, it's not like an automatic withdrawal where you just hand in the paper. You got to kind of wait for this process to unfold. Pared down, but still substantive change.
Okay. And any other significant policy or financial impact?
Yes, there are several policies. So as I mentioned before, the kindergarten policy, the admissions policy will need to be updated. Also, I don't want to tell you what policies, but to reference that the cell phone one might need to be somewhat updated. There's a little bit more specificity
Okay.
required in the policy. In that, but yeah, there were several policies that were implicated. So I'm happy to connect with you after, but once they pass and whatnot, but there were several.
Okay. All right, thank you. Any other questions on that topic? All right, so then I'm just going to move around. Ms. Spartanwerper?
All right, Parks and Rec. So we heard from the youth services social worker came in and told us a little bit about a needs assessment that she's been doing or is working on. And told us about some of the programming they're going to be implementing for both parents as well as youth and families in the community. And it was fabulous. Sounds like they're doing a lot of good work. I have pages of notes. So if anybody's interested, please just let me know. Also, we approved Fairfield Arts Commission. There's going to be an arts festival on the Sherman Green on June 27th from 10 to 3. We also approved Dog Days on June 28th. And we also approved the locations of signs for part of a walking tour. This is called the Shining Truth, and these are locations for signs, kind of like shouting out some of the accomplished Black athletes and members of our community, and also just some really cool historical pieces that haven't been told yet. So there's going to be like a sign where the first Black church used to be, and something down on Ash Creek, and it's going to be really nice. And the signs are going to match other signs that exist in Fairfield. So we kind of just started the process by approving locations. And then the biggest part of Parks and Rec, and then I'm done, is that we approved rules for approving naming of facilities. So we now have official rules for how to nominate somebody and then what type of person should be nominated for this position. To have a field named after them. And at the meeting, Kevin Osve was nominated for the Fairfield American Field at Mill Hill, and we voted unanimously to approve that, and that is now going to the first select person.
Mhm.
Yes, for approval. Thank you.
Okay, I have two quick follow-up questions. The first, when they had first been proposing that new position with the youth social worker,
Yes.
the question I had been asking at the time was what degree of collaboration did the town see that person doing with the school district? Because between redundancy or else great support, it could either be incredibly inefficient or a fantastic collaboration that supports our work. I was wondering if that came up in the conversation at all.
They definitely seem to be working with Fairfield Cares and to be collaborating with the schools. I think it seems like a fantastic opportunity. Maybe something to look into, having her come and meet us. Like, she was great, and they seem to really.
She's been working very, very hard on a community needs assessment, and that's going to be
Ah.
presented at Penfield Pavilion shortly. So I'm not sure that it's pretty early in the morning. I can follow up with you when it's going to be done, but the needs assessment presentation. So I think it will be the latter.
Great, thank you so much. Mrs. Flynn?
This is for Fairfield Cares. I just want to take the opportunity to give a huge shout out to Fairfield Cares Coalition, their leadership, our coordinator, Philomena and Janice, and then the partners that helped Max Stossel happen tonight, the Fairfield Public Schools, Mr. Chestani, the PTA Council, the Digital Wellness Committee. The amount of work and emails it took to get these presentations, and I just want to highlight the practices that have been going on for a long time have been these parent presentations at night, and that was kind of the totality of the events. And the decision was made by Fairfield Cares at the recommendation of the district and PTA to bring those programs in-house. So instead of reaching a few dozen parents, we reached all of our middle schoolers and all of our high schoolers. So I just want to take this time to really thank everybody that was a part of it, and hope that everyone that's over at Fairfield Ludlow is having an amazing, amazing experience. I can't wait to see it tomorrow. I hope a lot of us will be there, and just a huge gratitude to Mr. Testani for being a continuous partner with Fairfield Cares. So I'm just very grateful tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Asa?
Yeah, and with regards to Fairfield Cares, are you guys set with your funding and grants and everything like that for the coming year?
I'll give another shout out. Yes, we submitted our year 6 grant after much work with the district. For those who aren't aware, Fairfield Cares operates underneath the Fairfield Public Schools as their fiduciary. So our work is very much intertwined but separate. And I can't speak to how amazing the staff has been at navigating and supporting the work of Cares, which really fits kind of a niche need in the district. I took over the role at the invitation of Mr. Superintendent Tastani, who held it before me. And this connection between Fairfield Cares, the town of Fairfield, and our public schools has just been incredibly vital. So yes, we're in a great position, right?
So everything's been submitted and
Absolutely.
whatever's needed to be done. Okay, excellent.
Yep.
Okay, other committee and liaison reports. Mr. Krasnov.
Thank you. Our curriculum committee had a special meeting the other day. We got a sneak peek of the science curriculum presentation and the status that will be presented, I believe, in May, if it's on our agenda. We got an idea of where they're kind of heading and where they are in the process. Obviously, a lot of the work's going to take place over the summer. So at this point, we didn't really feel it was necessary for board feedback prior to getting the initial presentation, but I'm sure everyone's going to have some sort of feedback once they see it. Then we decided that we're going to put the elementary school schedule progress as an ongoing agenda item. So for the public, anyone's interested in what's going on with the elementary school schedule, it will be an ongoing agenda item in our curriculum committee meetings, every single meeting. Whether stuff will be discussed or not would depend on what information is available. But we do know some of the curriculum work is being done now, and any curriculum changes will be brought forward to us, I believe, in May as well, starting at the curriculum level and then to the full board. Thank you.
And I was curious, could you speak to what, for example, the nature of the conversation is at this point?
In terms of the schedule,
Yes, please.
so they are reviewing the current science curriculum and seeing where changes will be needed to be made in terms of each grade level and integrating some of the STEAM into it. They're also looking at library media, integrating some of the STEAM into that as well. They have not started, I believe, the art yet, but they are going to get to the art and look at the minutes and where I believe we were told that in the younger, some of the stuff is now going to be moved from the older grades to the younger grades. So it's going to be just moved around a little bit in terms of what the actual curriculum will look like. Just also in terms of the minute changes. What else? I think that was it. Anyone else from the committee? Anything I missed? Yeah, go ahead.
Part of the reason that Mr. Krasnov added it too, in the discussions, in order to support classroom teachers for both just the STEAM incorporations and science, they were talking about bins and resources, also talking about library media. So a lot of the conversation from Ms. Bardenwapper, Mr. Krasnov, and myself was just around resources and communicating to administration our support and just continued ear for things that may come up in the process as they are moving towards June and our budget adjustments. And if they needed anything, our recurring, yeah, Jackie, you did it.
Yeah, no, well, that was a big piece. We made it very clear that if there was anything needed to bring it to the board so that we could decide, even if it's a budget implication. When we were doing this schedule, we didn't look at it from a budget standpoint. So if there were budget implications, especially if we need more funding, I would love for them not to be afraid to come back to the board. And that was what our committee, said to them. If there was any budget implications, we'd love for the board to hear it.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Bardenwerper?
Specifically, they were adding a few new science units that were coming from STEAM, and they were saying that every teacher gets a bin. And right now, the bins live in the STEAM classroom, and there weren't enough bins. So that was kind of the main where that conversation came from.
Okay. Follow up to that, Ms. Jacobson?
Yeah, appreciate the budget implications. beginning to happen. I would imagine, since you're referencing changes to the curriculum, that implementation guide writing. So each of these things, changing, rewriting curriculum, implementation, even common assessments and all those all generally have budgetary implications that are not in our proposed 26-27 budget. So I can't imagine that there wouldn't be hours associated with these changes as well. So I imagine.
Correct. That was part of the conversation. ED, anything associated with it.
Ms. O'Neill?
So speaking of the budget, the RTM will be voting on the entire town budget this Monday, May 4th. So that obviously includes our budget. The RTM can only make cuts to the budget, and I do not foresee that happening. But just to be aware, the meeting is taking place this Monday right here, 7 o'clock.
And if I can follow up on that, Ms. O'Neill, were there other topics that came up as in Monday's meeting? So no announcement or cautions to
Not
any
that I
particular
have
groups?
heard, no.
Okay. Time of the meeting.
Are there any appeals moving forward for additions to the process that they do have in place? I believe that there might have been some things that were eliminated in the Board of Finance on the town side that may need recouping, or was there anything spoken about that?
No, not that I have
So the
heard.
total number that they're moving forward with, you anticipate to be what was brought to them? Okay, thank you.
Okay. No, that's all right. Thank you. Moving on to open board comment. Any comments? I would just like to reiterate what our ward representative said, which is next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. You can never provide enough food for a teacher, so just throwing that out there if there's a way for you to volunteer. But really, just a profound thanks for all the work that they do to support our children, to support the work of the district. 1 week doesn't cover it, but 1 week can be really, really nice. So anything else? Mr. Asa?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo that, but I'd also like to say, while it is Teacher Appreciation Week, I like to look at it as Staff Appreciation Week. So there are a lot of unsung heroes in all the buildings. So if you're out and about or your kids are there, encourage them to say thanks to the teachers, of course, but also all the other people that help and support the teachers get their jobs done.
Okay. All right. Finally, public comment. If there are any members of the public who'd like to come up and speak to an agenda item. All right. Well, then finally, recommended motion that this regular meeting of the Board of Education adjourn, moved by Mrs. Jacobson, seconded by Mrs. Flynn. All those in favor? And Mrs. Rinaldi?
Aye.
Thank you. And the motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.